Hi everyone, before we start the show, I'd like to thank iTrustCapital for being a sponsor. iTrust wrote an article, 7 Things to Know About Your Crypto and Taxes in 2022, and it just gives an overview of just how crypto is treated with the IRS. So if you don't know, crypto is treated like property. Anytime you make a gain, you have to report it. So anytime I have a crypto that gains in value and I sell it for another crypto, that's a taxable event. Cryptos are taxed differently for short and long term. So if I hold a crypto for a certain length of time, it's a different tax rate than if I, trade a crypto in the short term. So crypto income must be tracked and reported. And it looks like the IRS has subpoenaed Coinbase for information in 2013 to 2015. So, they're doing their due diligence. Buying and holding crypto is generally not taxable. So if I buy something and hold it for the long term, I don't have to worry about it until I sell it. Crypto IRAs can confer tax advantages. So there's tremendous benefits for owning a crypto IRA. They're for your retirement. So if you take money out before your retirement, that's penalized. So be aware of that. With iTrustCapital, it makes crypto IRAs as well as precious metals IRAs extremely easy to do. So if you don't know iTrust.capital/Darren, check them out. And if you use the link I just gave, they'll give you a $100 funding reward just by using the link. So be sure to check them out. This, to me, is the ultimate heroic trait of ordinary people. They say no to the tyrant, and they calmly take the consequences of this resistance. The President has nominated Michael Barr, the Ripple board member and former Treasury Department, to the Federal Reserve top regulator in charge of the big banks. In the next clip, Michael Barr is to the right-hand side, speaking with Secretary Blinken.
Really acting in the 21st century in ways that are addressing the needs of the American people. Just in the past couple of weeks, I cut the ribbon on a new bureau in the department for cybersecurity and digital policy, so that our department is helping to advance our efforts around the world in making sure that as these policies are being shaped, we're not only at the table, we're leading the conversation. And we'll soon have a senior envoy to deal with emerging technology, to make sure that as the norms and standards and rules that are being set around the world for how these technologies are used, we're in the lead on that effort. As we speak, my illustrious predecessor, and now the President's Special Envoy for Climate, John Kerry, along with our Assistant Secretary, Monica Medina, is in Palau for the Our Oceans Conference to advance efforts that we're making on climate and on the environment. And so we're very focused on that. As I mentioned, we continue to get vaccine doses out there, but more than that, we're bringing countries together, mobilizing them to deal with the gaps that exist around the world in getting vaccines, getting shots into arms, as well as trying to build back better a global health system that can deal more effectively with the next pandemic, because we'll be facing one. So in all of these ways and more, including on economics, which is so foundational to everything we do, we're making sure that we have a department that is fit for purpose to actually deal with the challenges that we're facing around the world.
Blinken cut the ribbon at a new department that deals in digital policy to ensure that the U.S. has a seat at the table while shaping global policy on emerging technologies. After the president released the crypto executive order, Blinken tweeted that the technologies underpinning new forms of payments and capital flows in the international financial system can benefit consumers and businesses if deployed correctly. If you haven't seen my video on Palau, be sure to listen to it. It's pinned in the comments. Palau is a test bed for the United States to implement these technologies. Ripple is putting US dollars directly on the XR people for the people of Palau to use. The Republic of Palau is implementing digital identity services where your ID is minted as an NFT. The ID will be linked to the wallets and records. This partnership with the Republic of Palau will revolutionize economic development both in Palau and around the world. Palau's unique angle to entry to the digital economy will enable them to leapfrog legacy government services to meet the needs of global citizens. The world is beginning to recognize the practicality, versatility, and true transformative power of digital identity. This is a swift step towards the future.
Money impacts our world. Over the last years, there has been this process of increased digitalization with crypto assets, stable coins, central bank digital currencies. The pandemic put this on steroids. So now we see a much faster advancement in that direction. And we already have the first central bank digital currencies. Surprisingly or not, the very first one was the Bahamas sand dollar. That process is going to create new dynamics around the global financial system. And it is very important that we are focused on what would it take to protect financial stability. Well, in terms of central bank digital currencies, interoperability. Can we still be integrated with new central bank currencies coming forward? For stable coins, it would be, are they regulated in a way that they protect the people and businesses? And for crypto, the use of Bitcoin and others, again, it would be a matter of, do we know exactly what is happening, how we can integrate these transactions into a global platform. So there is a lot of work to be done. And I want to stress it is not just the war, it is also this fast-moving train of digitalization we need to be mindful of.
And I didn't hear anything about banning crypto. Crypto will be absorbed into finance and utilized because the technology offers efficiencies that will benefit the global economy.
The new phase, which is the one in which we live, in which essentially we need the currency for settling international trade. Now, the idea that dollar is still the currency for this is a de facto given. Everybody accepts this. It's obvious that China, for example, and the emerging powers, but China in the first one, maybe they have some, let's say, ambition to depotentiate the role of the dollar, because, of course, the depotentiating the role of the dollar would allow a more flexible international system of trade and less power to the US. Now, the story is the following, and this is the reason for which we are starting to debate academically to this issue. Is it the time to consider a return to the debate between Keynes and Dexter White in order to have a new international currency, which could be defending the interest of the Western currencies in the countries? So de facto, our economies would need a stable system in the future, rather than would you prefer to go on like this with the dollar in this position, exposing all of us to the risk that one day maybe this would somehow collapse because of a currency war, of a trade war worldwide, or this decoupling idea that is going on. Well, and at this point, jeopardizing the interest of everybody. So I think this is the real geopolitical issue behind the economic issue. I don't think there is a single answer which is good for everybody, and especially it changes a lot by the perspective you see the issue.
Frederica has served several advisor roles, including the European Investment Group as well as the World Bank Group. Frederica is saying everyone is dependent on the dollar for international trade, and is it time for a new currency for trade? That will also help the U.S. due to currency manipulation. As geopolitical tensions intensify, the dollar can be manipulated and devalued through currency and trade wars. Crypto assets are public ledgers without the need to trust one country. They are trustless. This is an ideal use case for crypto.
Actually, it transforms financials. The whole theory, I mean, you got to remember something. Financial services and FX, currency trading, itself is the largest sector and always has been globally forever. There's no market bigger than currency FX trading. And currency FX trading is a really bad, inefficient, crappy market. Let's say, and I do this, let's say I've got a European ETF index. And if you think at Europe, you got Swiss franc, you got euro, you got British pounds. So I want to buy Nestle on the Zurich exchange. I have to take USDC, send it to some scumbag FX trader who clips me for 3 basis points for no value added whatsoever, zero value, don't need them, except I'm forced to do it. Then I buy my Nestle stock in Swiss francs. I hold it till I want to sell it. Then I get the same scumbag on the way back for 3 to 8 basis points. I'm back in US dollars. I get clipped for 8 to 10% or 8 to 10 basis points. Zero value. How much would I like to screw that guy by just getting a USDC or some other standard just one standard stable coin that I can come in and out, clip me for 1 or 2 basis points, I'm okay. I can't wait to screw over FX traders. And the only way we're going to do that is with the blockchain, with a full transparent audit of every transaction. And so I don't care which stable coin it is. We need to get that done to stop getting screwed by this incredible inefficiency in the currency market. And that's just one use case. That's only one use case. Multi-trillion-dollar monthly market that could be huge change by crypto. So that's why I'm a believer in it. That's why it will definitely be the 12th sector, if not the largest sector. There's so much friction and inefficiency and opaqueness and just scumbags in the middle scraping bips out of the whole system that can be eradicated. I don't care if they all shine shoes. We got to get rid of them.
Kevin, tell me how you really feel about middleman clipping bips.
Well, there you have it. If you can add value, I'll pay you. When you add zero value and you only clip me because you're in the middle, I can't wait to screw you over.
Yeah. What's the end?
With a ODL-enabled platform, O'Leary will get his wish, and billionaires and banks alike will be able to move money globally for a fraction of the cost today. This is a daily multi-trillion-dollar market, and XRP is positioned and now custom-tailored for this market, unlike the rest of crypto, except maybe Stellar. By the way, I discovered this Novati PDF that lists Stellar as well as Ripples as partners.
The final global issue I will touch on today is the digital revolution. This includes reskilling workers for an increasingly digital economy, unlocking the potential of innovations such as central bank digital currencies, and strengthening the regulatory framework around crypto assets. Over 100 of our member countries are actively investigating this crucial area, and we are assisting with policy advice and capacity building. We used to say the future is digital. Now the future is here, bringing new sources of productivity, growth, and jobs. Let me conclude. In the past 7 weeks, the world has experienced a second major crisis, a war on top of a pandemic. This risks eroding much of the progress we have made over the past 2 years climbing back from COVID. Add to this the growing threat of fragmentation into geopolitical and economic blocs. In a world where war in Europe creates hunger in Africa, where a pandemic can circle the globe in days and reverberate for years, where emissions anywhere means rising sea levels everywhere, the threat to our collective prosperity from a breakdown in global cooperation cannot be overstated. The only effective remedy to these risks is international cooperation. It is our only hope for a fairer, more resilient future. And it is our duty. With near universal membership, the IMF is a tried and tested platform for global cooperation. Drawing on the collective strength of our members, we are providing urgently needed policy advice and financing to those hardest hit by the double crisis. And we stand ready to work with our international partners to do even more. At the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944, US Treasury Secretary Henry Morgenthau laid out an elementary economic axiom to help guide the founders of the IMF. Prosperity, like peace, is indivisible.
Over 100 countries are hopping onto the crypto bandwagon, while the global economy is becoming more divided. The one thing that is needed for prosperity is unity in global trade. There needs to be a new Bretton Woods to iron out the details, and that is what they are foreshadowing. International cooperation is built on trust. Trustless systems do not require trust, but they deliver it.
So we do have two challenges to the whole system. One is coming for the role of the dollar and the idea that this could go on in remaining the international currency. Today, even more 75% of global reserves in the central banks are dollars, because everybody needs dollars to ensure its capability to trade. On the other hand, we have a money supply in digital currencies and, let's say, new forms of payment, which would intervene and influence the market in a way that we don't know yet. So I would see the future IMF needing a reform, but needing a reform in order to be able to cope with a money supply that is completely different from what we had 75 years ago. Now, what it will be? It will be the old IMF reformed and announced with new structure. It will be a new agreement, a new Bretton Woods in which we decide, okay, we have to make some kind of deals. Or it will be a new institution, so IMF and something else coming out to manage this kind of new relations. I think this is part of the debate we see today. So I wouldn't give an answer, but I think this is something we have all to think too.
Federico says there needs to be a new Bretton Woods, with either the IMF or the IMF and a new institution to manage the next reserve currency.
Emerging technologies, the things that are really shaping the lives of our people, the smartphones that we all have in our pockets, the standards, the norms, the rules by which those technologies are used. That's probably going to have a greater impact on the lives of everyone sitting in this room today than just about anything else. But we can't do that alone. We can't dictate that. We have to bring other countries along, and that goes with diplomacy. In these windowless conference rooms around the world where these norms and standards and rules are getting decided and getting shaped, we've got to be at the table. And now we are. Just a couple of weeks ago, I actually literally cut the ribbon. I've never got a chance to do that before with a giant pair of scissors. In the State Department, we have a bureau that we just stood up in record time, thanks to terrific support from Congress on a bipartisan basis, to help lead on cybersecurity and digital policy, so that the United States, in all of these places around the world where this is getting decided, is there at the table and hopefully even at the head of the table. And we're back and doing that. And so to the extent that there's a vision, it really is about a reassertion of American leadership and engagement, a conviction that we have to do this with partners, with allies, within international institutions, as well as where necessary on our own. And finally, the last point I'd make is this: we have to be investing in ourselves. That also gives us tremendous strength when we're dealing abroad. President Biden's been committed to that. We used to dedicate about 2% of our GDP to investments in research and development from the government. That got down to about 0.7% of GDP. We're trying to change that because those investments, which were catalysts for invention and for the private sector, led to everything from the internet to GPS to so many other things in between. And we're at a competitive disadvantage if we're not making those investments.
We have seen Yellen pull a 180 on crypto. The executive order was the president pushing regulators to figure crypto out. Now Blinken is telling you he just opened a division to deal with emerging technologies and the importance of the U.S. setting those standards. He also mentions how 2% of GDP needs to be invested into research and development. I predict that there will be investment in blockchain in the near future to help us catch up with competition. Everything's the same. When you break through to absolute reality, it's all one vast blur. Thanks everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show and happy Easter. I'm thinking about putting some videos on Rumble with my unvarnished views. Let me know if you'd be interested. If you enjoy content like this and want to help support my channel, please consider joining my Patreon. Please like and subscribe. Thanks guys.